Recently, Nala Ray came out and gave her backstory on how her life ended up the way it did and why she's turning back around. And there are some shocking things about her life, her childhood, that people seem to be glossing over, and we've got to talk about it. Before I get into the video though, if you are a child or you have children nearby, just know that I'm going to use careful language, but at the same time there are going to be some subjects brought up that are just adult subjects that are very mature subjects. Again, you're not going to hear me cuss or something like that, and I'll be delicate with my language either way, but just know when I talk about who she used to be, what she used to do, these are grown-up adult stuff, so just be advised about that. So I mentioned her name is Nala Ray. I learned about her recently. People started posting about her, and there was some controversy, some debate online about her. Apparently, she used to be in some, let's just call them unsavory adult content related industries. You know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that. It was one of those places where it's like a subscription service to an individual person. In recent times, she started to seek God, and she shares things about her parents that, again, are very, very shocking in many, many ways and very sobering about the power that parents have over how their children are going to live throughout the course of their lives. There are some fundamental needs we as people have, and when we don't know how to meet those needs, we're going to try to meet those needs in any way that we possibly can, and it's going to be a mess if we could do it without God. And look at exactly what I mean when I say that.
My parents I don't feel as though they loved me in the way that I feel loved.
Didn't give you a hug.
My mom was a very more stern disciplinarian. She's so sweet. But it's not like, she's not like a hugger or anything, at all, doesn't touch kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then my dad being respectful because I'm a woman, doesn't do that at all, will not touch like that. So, and I was like, okay, I get it, but I just need love, So, the craziest thing is I went through counseling in my teenage years because I was acting out like crazy and couldn't explain it to myself. My parents didn't know what was going on with me. And I went to a counselor, and she specifically said the reason I was acting out was because I was looking for love.
So she's acting out as a teenager, and she goes to a counselor. Counselor says, you clearly are looking for love. And by what she said about her parents, she was not getting that from her parents. Her parents were not affectionate people. And it's very interesting, the excuse that she makes for her dad, or the reason that she gives for her dad, my dad being respectful of me because I am a woman. I'm not even sure what she means by that necessarily. I have two daughters, and I can't think of a reason like that I would give for not giving my daughters hugs and kisses and cuddles and all that amazing stuff. Because they're girls, because they're women or something like that. They're my babies. They're my daughters. It seems like she might be making an excuse for her dad or something like that, but her mom doesn't hug her, and that's what she expected, mainly out of her mom. She expected the affection. She expected the love. So now she's going to talk about the job that her dad used to do. Notice this.
That she feels as though I'm acting out in these ways, these dramatic ways to, one, get attention, and two, just feel love, that love that I'm not feeling at home, because my parents are focused on the church and not their kids. So you can be a shepherd of the sheep in the church, but if you're not being a shepherd in your own home,
right.
They're turning into wolves over here, starving.
Charity is the most important.
So her dad was a preacher. She doesn't say it word for word in that clip, or she doesn't say it directly, but she says it in another part of the interview. Her dad was working with the church very, very deeply, and neglected taking care of his children at the expense of taking care of other people in the church. And again, how sad that is. And again, getting neglected. She's looking for love, doesn't get affection from her dad, doesn't get attention from her dad. And all this stuff is causing her to start to look for love, not knowing how to do it. She's going to look for it in the wrong places again.
Why I say I wouldn't take it back is because God could absolutely use me if I never would have gotten on Only. I don't need to have that testimony to be able to reach people. But if you were a young girl thinking about starting an Only, being influenced by this current generation to start an Only, would you listen to the person that's never been on Only or never had any direct connection to it saying, don't do it, don't do it? Or would you listen to the person at the top of the hill who's saying, there's a cliff after this?
Right. You might listen to both.
You could, absolutely, depending on so many different things.
Yeah.
But I'm stubborn. So, and I'm one of those hands-on people that kind of want to figure it out for myself. I personally would listen to the person at the top of the hill being like, do not come up here.
So for a second, it sounds like she's about to say she doesn't regret it. But what she means is, I'm glad that it happened because now it can be used for something. She recognizes that it was bad. She recognizes that had it never happened, technically that would be better, right? And that's kind of what Michael Knowles is trying to help her understand. Like, hey, if you never did this, you could be just as credible. Now, for some people, she would not be just as credible. And so she has a higher credibility to a specific group of young people who are looking for love in a horrible way. They're not looking for love in God. And she can tell them, hey, look, you're way better off if you find this love in God. If you look for love in God, you'll actually get the love, number one. But two, you won't degrade yourself and do this horrible stuff that's so bad for society. When she finally did turn her life around and try to go back, she's going to talk about how her parents received her. And again, this is going to be a very surprising answer given what she has said about her parents being religious and Christian.
Speaking to my dad, but we weren't like good. And my mom and I just like barely ever spoke. So her and I have never really had a good relationship, although I do hope that changes. We still don't have a good relationship, and I'm not quite sure why. But, you know, in my mind, I expected this change to be like the prodigal son returning, you know? Yeah. In my mind, I was like, I hope that's something like what it's like to return home whole, and not whole. He didn't come back whole. He came back broken, you know? And then he comes back to his home, you know, where he belongs, and got an amazing welcome. I'm not
had a
expecting
delicious fatted calf. Yeah.
Yes. And I wanted that, but it did not happen at all. And it kind of broke my heart a little bit. But
with either of your parents, it didn't happen.
In fact, they're actually getting another divorce.
So even to this day, when she finally stopped this and turned her life around and started seeking after God to her religious, quote unquote, Christian parents, they still don't receive her back. That is so crazy to think about. They still wouldn't take her back. Here's one of the last interactions she had with her parents when they found out what she was doing with her life. Notice how sad this is and how difficult this is for her emotionally.
And so my parents disowned me in this, but that sounds like catastrophic. I mean,
it was, we had this like final talk the day before I left for California, and we were just out on my porch in my apartment. And my mom didn't say a word to me the whole time when I was, like, they knew I was moving the next day, but didn't say anything to me, wouldn't even look at me. And my dad was just kind of like trying to come to terms with it verbally, but I wasn't saying anything because I was like, I don't know what you're trying to work out here, but I don't like know what you want me to say. Like, I know you disapprove. I just want to know if you still love me.
Yeah.
But I didn't ask that directly, but the one thing that my mom said before they walked out the door was just like, I hope you're happy in your endeavors, and then just left. And it broke my heart, truly. Ooh. So.
But she must have been in some immense pain.
Absolutely.
Probably felt a bit of guilt. Sorry. It's all right.
I think the biggest thing is that I've never really dove into that feeling, never talked about this, because again, it was just something I was like, I can't even deal with this. I can't think about it. Yep. It is hurtful to think that your parents actually do have like a line drawn in the sand to what they will accept and not accept, and will they actually like love you past a certain point. And I guess that answer was kind of no.
Do you think it was no, though, or do you think they were just kind of
I kind of think that because I went 3 years without speaking to my mom. Like, there was absolutely no communication, and except for she did send me a letter, like an email, that was just saying that I had drifted far from God and that this wasn't his purpose for my life. And I was
notice that. The people who, according to her, if what she's saying is true, were so emotionally unavailable and cold and businesslike and authoritarian and not authoritarian and not really giving love with the authority and the rules. Those same people who did not model Christianity before her either. If you look at the full video, Again, divorced when she was young, got back together, divorced again later on in her life. The lack of love that they gave to their child led to their child looking for love in places that were wrong. And they didn't show her the right place to go for this love. They really didn't, from what you hear her say about her parents. Now, again, she's at fault for what she did. What she did was sin. The life that she was living was bad. It was sinful, all those things. But there is so much blame to be laid at the feet of parents who both hardly seemed to love her when she was a child. And then now that she's older and she's getting messed up because they largely messed her up, are kind of gaslighting her into going, well, look at this. Now we really aren't going to love you. Again, think about how sad that is. This is a grown woman here crying in an interview about something that she hasn't been asked about before. Very spontaneous. Again, she says this hasn't been addressed. So that means that she didn't plan on, if she's faking it, she didn't plan on talking about this. I'm certain these are real tears, if that context is true. And so here you have a child who, all because of a lack of love, this child grows up to become a person who's doing all these horrible things, living in all these horrible ways. And then once the child tries to come back and do the right thing and follow the same God as her parents, they still don't want her. They still don't reject her. They rejected her at every single point because they weren't really walking in the love God wanted them to walk in. They were walking in all this authority. And therein lies the problem. People think that rules in and of themselves are bad when parents give rules to their children. And it's not that the rules in and of themselves are bad. It's that when you make rules and there is no love, trust, connection, you just become a dictator. And nobody loves a dictator. They might fake their smiles for a dictator. They might perform obedience for a dictator, but they don't love a dictator. Again, that's not to say that there's a problem with rules, but rules with no love. And look at Abigail Schreier talking about this. I'll link the video that I did with her and Joe Rogan talking about exactly this. Rules with no love is just a dictatorship. And the kids are going to drastically go off into an extreme. And it will be your fault if those are your kids. A lot of the time, it will be your fault. Sometimes there are loving parents, good parents, and the kids just end up wilding out. That happens. But in a lot of the times, and especially it is the case with people who end up in the industry that she was in, these are deeply broken people, emotionally abused, physically abused, and all these other ways abused people. We shouldn't glorify this or act like this is just some normal thing for parents to act this way to their kids and for people to live this way, to make the choices that she made. No, this is the result of so much abuse and so much pain. And people are asking about whether or not she's sincere. Even if we throw that debate aside, the reality is this kind of a situation exists in so many people. But let me know what you think. Is this, again, I'm not laying the blame at the feet of only her parents. She did these things, she made these decisions, and what parents do are not a guarantee of how you're going to live your life. Not at all. But wow, do I think that they really did set her up for all kinds of failure. And the fact that she even managed to turn this around, still alive and still reasonably well mentally, is very, very impressive. But let me know what you think. Have I gotten this wrong? Do I need some more perspective on this? I really would appreciate it. I love you. God bless you. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think and consider supporting on Patreon. You'll get the extended version of this video, weekly Q&A. You get priority for submitting videos for future podcasts, future uploads. Let me know. God bless you. Talk to you soon. Goodbye.